Hi, this is the Social Jello with Angelo show. My name's Angelo. I'm a social scientist, surfer, martial artist, and a whole lot of other things. Coming to you live from Kasai City, Japan, the Social Jello with Angelo show. Alright, hey, thanks for checking out Social Jello with Angelo. Before we get started with the show, all I have to say is please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Jump on, there's a link to it on my website at www.socialjello.com. I want to hit 1,000 subscribers. That's my goal. That way I can get more content and push better stuff out there and work on that stuff. Today, I have Nick. To avoid butchering Nick's last name, I'm just not going to say it. Nick's a really cool guy. He's a professional musician and a music teacher and also an MMA practitioner. And he shares his stories about how he got into MMA. And he's not a professional fighter. And we'll talk. You're going to learn about that. But I think it's a really great interview about someone who is learning how to balance his everyday life with MMA training. So check it out. And we're live. And we're live. We're live recording. We're not live while it's going. Anybody who watches this show knows this, I hope. Maybe. I'm here with Nick. Nick, you know, I don't even have your last name, brother. What's your last name?
Alieff, like a president of Azerbaijan.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's... I probably can't. I don't even know what country that is, but...
All you need to know is it's a president's surname.
It's a president. It's a presidential name. It's high class.
Yeah. Yes.
So Nick is as I mentioned earlier in the intro, Nick is an MMA practitioner. He trains out in Shanghai. What's it like training in Shanghai, man?
It's amazing, actually. It's amazing because you have people all over the world in sparring and in your gym, in competitions taking part. So it's cool. It's pretty cool. And considering that it's a big city, you have people who are practicing different styles of martial arts. And when there a lot of conversations going on in all different martial arts, especially in MMA, when you have these moments when somebody does it this way and somebody does it that way, and even with my coach, we had this thing how he was teaching me how to punch, and he said in the United States they don't do a step when they do punch, right, in classic boxing, but in Russia and Ukraine, and that's where he learned it, he does make a small step when he's crossing, or most of the times when he does cross, so because you want to be close to your opponent, and you do this small step with your right foot if you are an orthodox stand. So it's cool to know different ways how and different people background. They come there, they share. East European fighters, they are a little bit different than Asian fighters, and a little bit different than Western fighters. So it's pretty cool.
So you were saying in Shanghai, you have all these people from different martial arts backgrounds training. So the training is very diverse. You get taught different perspectives for different stuff.
Yeah. That's pretty much what I was saying. And it's cool. It's cool to have people from different parts of the world. That is always interesting,
Yeah, and that's actually, people always ask me the same question. Like, if I live in Japan, why do I keep coming back to Shanghai to train in MMA? And then all of my students out here, they're Japanese, so they're always wondering, like, why? Not why. they're always asking me like, oh, so you're training with a lot of Chinese people? Like, you're going to train with Chinese people in MMA? I'm like, actually, no. In Shanghai, they have like the same thing you just mentioned. I go there for the international community. Yes, there's a lot of Chinese folk who do train in MMA, and it's cool to work with them as well. But I feel like the pool of people is a lot more diverse than the area of Japan I live in.
Yeah. I've never been there in that area where you live, but about Shanghai, I kind of feel the same. That it's just a huge foreign community, which is endless, basically.
And where are you originally from? I don't think I asked you that before.
I'm from Georgia.
You're from Georgia, and not to clarify to some of my
all right,
listeners. My listeners in the U.S. are like, he doesn't sound like he's from Georgia.
Right? Yeah, Sound Boys. You don't sound like Sound Boy.
That's got to be.
Georgia?
Y'all got some strange accents over there. That part's Georgia you're from.
Yeah. Well, that's what you get when you go to Atlanta. I'm sorry.
But yeah, so you're originally from Georgia, the country, not the state. And
yeah.
When did you start training in martial arts out there?
It actually was like I've trained twice in my life in Georgia. First of all, when I was 6 and 7, so like year and a half maybe or two, I was really small, really young, and I trained kickboxing. And then I fell off the tree and injured my head and had a good amnesia.
Wow.
So I don't remember some stuff.
And how old
How
were you when you fell out of the tree?
7. 7.
So you started doing some kickboxing when you were 2?
6.
6. Sorry.
6. Yeah. 6. And then 7. I stopped.
You were kickboxing when you were 6, and you fell out of a tree, and you hit your head so hard that you ended up with head trauma, and you had amnesia.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the doctor said, because when I was a kid, I had my eyes were not like I couldn't look straight, so my eyes had some problems, and they fixed it because my muscles were pretty weak, my eye muscles, and my doctor said that if I go back to training and I get hit in the head, I might have problems with eyesight. So of course my parents were like, no, you're doing basketball from now, because they don't hit you in the head.
Non-contact golf. We're putting you in golf.
Yeah. You are playing chess, my mate. From now on,
joining the chess club. We're buying you.
Yeah.
We're buying you some sweater vests, and you're joining the chess club.
Right.
So the eye problem, was that before the head injury or after?
It was before head injury, but
so
after head injury, it could come back because I was young and my muscles they had to become stronger. It kind of like they had to establish, and when you are young, it's still forming, right? And that's why I'm doing it now, because I'm pretty old. I think they're already established, so I won't have this problem anymore until I get hit really hard. Let's see. I don't know yet. I have to figure it out.
And just to kind of clarify with my listeners again, when you train MMA, you train in MMA, and this is the reason I actually wanted to bring you on the show, because a lot of people that view MMA training, they think it's only for pro people that want to become professional fighters. So they're like, oh, those MMA guys are those crazy people that go into a cage and bash each other's faces in, and they don't. If you've never done MMA and you go to an MMA class and you see people tackling each other and hitting each other on the ground, it looks really aggressive and scary. So many people think that that's reserved only for people that are going to become professional fighters. But in your case, are you trying to become a professional fighter?
Yeah, no, not really. Not really, because I got a bunch of other stuff to do. But I do like to compete in an amateur competition. That's basically my goal, to win couple competitions. Basically I want to step into the cage. That's my goal.
Yeah. And have you
because
have you had any amateur MMA fights yet, or you're still trying to work to that?
not yet. I'm gonna be having legacy sparring in our club in the end of this month, and an MMA sparring, and then I'm going to a boxing competition in December.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I wanted you on the show, because I wanted someone just like you that their goal is to enter the amateur circuit. Like you're talking about, your goal is to get into amateur MMA. So you're kind of working your way into an amateur boxing match. Maybe later you'll do an amateur kickboxing, and then you'll do like an amateur open no-gi jiu-jitsu, and try to mix it all together and then jump into the cage. However road plan you have for that. But that's what I want my listeners to understand, is that Nick is not a professional MMA fighter. His profession, what's your what's your profession? What do you do for a living?
I'm a music teacher. For 3 years I was a musician here. I was working as a musician, basically the part of the band, and then I switched to teaching high school music.
Yeah, so
now I'm a teacher.
So he's a music teacher, MMA fighter. But like again, for those of you watching, for the people who are like trying to figure this out, again, like people don't know. Maybe some of the listeners do, some don't. I'm an English teacher, like I was mentioning to you off camera. I teach English as a second language. My main profession is English teaching. Many of my students kind of freak out if I come in with a black eye and whatnot. Like sometimes I'll teach at public schools, and the other day I came in with a black eye, and they're like, "What happened?" Like I was teaching a kickboxing class, and kind of misjudged a kick, whatever. But yeah. So like, what I want my listeners to kind of understand, and the point of this podcast was to kind of let you know that MMA is not reserved just for people that want to become professional fighters. And even,
of course.
And even in your case, it's not even just reserved for people who want to walk into an amateur circuit. I know people that have practiced MMA their whole lives and never fought in the amateur circuit. They only did maybe whatever minimal amount of training that's required. I come from Kajikembo, so they did whatever. We do require people to compete, but we don't require them to compete in a full contact amateur circuit. That's not right. That's a different track of fighter. Like some people want to do it, some people don't. We understand that. We make sure that their training is intense so that they still have that intensity, and we'll make them, for their belt test, they pretty much have to, in my school, they have to fight. They don't have to fight in the amateur circuit, but they have to do a full contact sparring session with a higher ranking student as part of their test. But again, for you, like, that's why I wanted you on here, man. I wanted to go into that topic so that people listening understand that MMA can be for everyone. And
it definitely can. Definitely.
And like, so you got your head injury. Doctors say you can't train. You're done. Like, or your parents say you can't. You decided to get back into, like, what got you back into martial arts training? Like, knowing all this, knowing the risk involved because of your history and your injury.
Because I believe, if something doesn't bother you for a long time, you kind of forget it, like a pigeon. You throw them a bread, and then they just forget where it falls. So until I get my ass kicked one more time, and I will realize that, hey, probably I shouldn't do that. But hey, I think it just the time thing. I think my muscles are okay, the eye muscles. I have a good eyesight. My injury was really a long time ago. I didn't break my skull or something like that. So I can get away. And that's the biggest thing. Now when I will go to a boxing match or whatever, when I'm sparring, I'm trying to cover up, more. So I have more reasons for doing that. Keep your hands up. So it's kind of a challenge, Fight is always a challenge, and even when you train, I think it's okay when you don't want to fight if you train in MMA or whatever martial arts you train, and you don't want to get fights. It's okay, but for me, I think it's kind of, it shows you how did you grow, and also it's kind of a challenge for you because let's admit fighting is scary, right?
Yeah, fighting's scary.
And
No matter how skilled you are.
yeah, right. And it's like overcoming yourself, stepping into a ring. It's not natural for people anyway. So it's interesting how your body reacts and how your mindset goes, and everything, the tension. So it's kind of weird because it is and it's not natural for people. I mean, all our history is being wild, rude, and violent, right? So we did fight all the way back, and we are fighting right now. But as soon as you are a solo fighter, as soon as you step into a fight, you're like, oh Jesus, I'm gonna die now. This guy gonna kill me, all these things pumping in your head. But then you win or lose, whatever. It's kind of interesting, the whole process that is going in your head.
Yeah. There's a flood of things that come into your head when you pick up, when you start getting into MMA sparring. Once you step into the ring, like there's always another level, but every time you get in there, there's always, I think that's where the focus, like they always talk about in martial arts, the connection between your mind, body, and spirit. And
Yeah.
I really think that's where you're talking about that mind to spirit. Like you can learn the techniques, you can learn how to punch, you can learn how to kick, you can learn all this stuff. That's the body element. But the mind, spirit, a lot of people think it's a spiritual connection, but I want to say, like, there's this intellectual process, and then there's your instinct, which we can call the spirit. And it's trying to use your intellectual process to be, because like you said, intellectually you want to get the hell out of there. And
right.
And you want to use your instincts, your spirit, which is developed through training. You really hope that your fighting spirit can overtake your intellectual properties of wanting to get the hell out.
Yes. But that's the thing, right? Martial arts build a confidence, and it is always to be it is better to be a self-confident person rather than not confident, because all the problems in your life is a lot of problems in life comes from being not self-confident, and that's a big part of everybody's life. The same thing about like being bullied or bully somebody, it's also comes, if you want to establish yourself as like alpha dominant somewhere in school or whatever, in who it comes from being not confident.
Yeah.
And I think martial arts are good for building good confidence at first place, and also it's I don't know, if martial arts can establish you as a person, I believe can make a better person from you, because I don't even have a reason for that. I mean, there are a bunch of reasons for that, but I cannot pick one. It's all the combination of different aspects. Why is it so?
And like, I guess, and again, you speaking from your personal experience, what were some of the changes that you noticed when you started doing MMA? Like, what were some of the things that you noticed changing in you?
Um, well, I became more confident, more self confident. I became more calm. That's the thing, and also, well, mm, I feel great. That's basically why I'm doing that. I feel good. I mean, I cannot live without doing sports, because teaching job and any gigs. When you're doing music gigs, it's you stay late. I go to bed at like 3 a.m. sometimes, and then the next day I have to wake up and go to school, and I have office work, and I need some release. So martial arts is this release. You understand me. You're a teacher. You
Yeah.
know how to work with kids, and then you go there in the gym and punch the bag, and you're like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, there's definitely that. I've always had that. And that's what I mean. My background's a little bit different, and the reason I got into martial arts is a little bit different. If you want to check out some of the history on that, you should check out the podcast I did with Ramsey Dewey. A little name drop out there.
Oh yeah, I have to
That'll,
check it out.
yeah, yeah. For my listeners, yeah, I put that on the playlist on the Akaji Kembo series because it has to do with that. But yeah, like for me, I always ever since I started training when I was a teenager, I had this thing where like I had to spar at least once a week. That's what me and my cousin would spar together. We'd be like, dude, I have to. Like, it's building up. I gotta,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I gotta release this tension at least once a week. I gotta get some sparring in there to be more calm because I'm naturally a very kind of amped up, aggressive person. So, like, I needed that positive environment to release aggression where I'm not going to be punished for it. It's not going to have
Yeah,
any social
yeah, yeah,
repercussions or anything like that. So
yeah.
like that's
Exactly.
that really did help me focus outside of martial arts. And you were saying you're a musician. How long have you been a musician now, man?
Oh man, I've been a musician for a long time, but professional musician I became in 2015.
2015.
Yes, that's why I call it professional musician, because I started earning money with that. Before that, it was concerts, sometimes some gigs, but I started constantly doing that for life and nothing but that from 2015.
Oh, okay. Okay. And what instrument do you play?
I'm a guitar player.
Okay, you're a guitarist. Cool, cool, cool. So you started playing. When did you start playing guitar? Like, became a professional musician in 2015. But when did you start like getting into music?
Oh, so it was maybe my grade 4 or 5 when I started classical guitar, and I hated it, man. I hated it. And in Georgia, we have separate music. Like if you want to do music, it's not like in the United States. You don't have music classes in Georgia in school. You have to go um, off campus. Basically, you have to find the teacher or a music school for for learning music. And I went to the music school, and it was miserable. For 2 or 3 years, I was learning this classical guitar, the Bach and the green sleeves, and I truly hated it. And then somehow, in my class, we started listening to rap and metal music, if you can imagine
Huh.
this compilation. And my friends, they brought me first Red Hot Chili Peppers albums and Rammstein
Oh, okay.
albums,
Okay.
and then we went to Kid Rock and then Metallica and this kind of things. And Eminem was really popular at that time. I don't know why I mentioned it. but he was.
Hey.
And Linkin Park, and then Slipknot. So we started. My classmates, they started a band outside the school, and they started doing this Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones things. And as I was the most professional guitar player out of everybody, because they had no idea how to hold the guitar, and I already had, I joined them for that. And then I bought my first electric guitar, and then where it all started, the party started over there. It was maybe, I was maybe 13 years old when I got my first electric guitar, maybe 14, something around that. And then I was like, wow, this thing can be cool, you know? And yeah, then I started doing rock music, and then I got to metal music. And of course, nowadays I don't play none of it, not rock, not metal. I'm too old for this. Now I'm a jazz age musician. Now I'm like no yelling, no screaming, please. My ears hurt, you know.
Oh, that's so funny. So you started and that's funny because like when I was young, I almost became a professional musician. I have a very similar story.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's why.
Wow.
I don't.
What did you play?
I played guitar, but my story is the opposite of yours. Like, I come from a family of professional musicians. Like, I have 2 uncles. My mom, on and off, did gigs for money, and so what happened was when I was introduced to music, they were all I'm Puerto Rican. And they Puerto Rico's got like this really music rich culture. So like my uncles came at music, and the music that was introduced to me when I said I wanted to start playing music, I was already watching them playing gigs and stuff as a kid. So like they were covering like they were really into folk, like bands like America and like the Eagles and like that kind of stuff, like and Beatles, like a lot of that 70s folk music. So that was kind of their style, and then they had their original songs that they would write. So I saw this process. So when I got into music, I didn't really like they didn't have a lot of money growing up, so all of them learned how to play music on their own. Like they essentially taught themselves how to play music and became professional musicians. So they never went to like you did, a music school. So when I said I wanted to start learning music, they just started teaching me. And my mom was more of she was never very good at music theory, so she taught me music to feel the music, to listen to the music and feel it, and learn how to play stuff by ear. So like that's how she taught me how to play, which was kind of became a problem later when I started getting more into the professional side of it, because my producer would be like, okay, go ahead and play go ahead and start on, go ahead and tune the guitar down to E, or play a G C D progression. I'd look at him like, I don't know what you're talking about. and he'd look at me like, what the fuck? Like you just wrote an entire song and you don't know what G, C, or D is? I'm like, no. You mean the one where I hold it with 4 fingers,
Tell
3
me what
fingers?
to put fingers. Yeah.
Just start.
Which fret? Which fret? Which finger? Which fret?
Just start playing. Tell me the number of the fret. Number 4, 5, 6. Like that's how I do music. This guy's not a professional.
Yeah.
But like, so yeah, I came at it completely different from your background. But so yeah, but I did play with people like that came from your background, and they had like more of a theoretical approach. As I got older, I got more into that kind of style. But yeah, that's really interesting. Like you kind of came from. That's another reason I kind of wanted to have you on the show, because I don't talk about too much, but like the music that I use for the show, that's all my old band's stuff. There was a point where I was going to transfer into becoming a professional musician, and I don't want this podcast to be about that, but long story short, I didn't sign the contract, and everything kind of fell apart after that. I would say the goal is, please sign the contract and don't end up with don't end up with a guitarist with a drug problem. I guess that would be the that would be the walk away lesson for you kids listening. Although
that should work out.
Yeah, recently I did click on YouTube that kids aren't supposed to watch this show, but if for some reason some young impressionable mind is listening, yeah, make sure that everyone's got their shit together before you sign a contract. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. Don't go crazy before. Go crazy after.
Yeah.
At least do couple tours and couple albums, and then you can end up as like John Bonham or Jim Morrison.
Yeah. Wait till you have the money before you party like a rock star. Just think about it that way. Don't party like a rock star without the money, because then you're just a drug addict.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, you did music. You played for a long time. 2015 you started getting you were obviously already doing gigs and getting paid, but in 2015 it became your entire life like that. You made all the money you needed to make off of music. Where were you? Where were you at that point?
China.
There it is.
Yeah, that is the first place we came as a band, and got the contract. Well, we got the contract and then we came here, obviously. But that was the first place where I quit my job. I was actually living in Ukraine because I was studying in Ukraine, my major, and then I stayed there with my wife because I got married there. Was working in music shop, and me and my friend, we quit the music shop, got our tickets, and here we are. We went to China, and it worked out. It worked out pretty well.
And you got signed by a Chinese music company, or was it a different?
We got signed. Yeah, the first gigs, we were just doing gigs like 1 month there, 7 days there, and then one month and a half over there, and it was it's cool. It was not a lot of money, just it was like a surviving money. Mm-hmm. You could eat and you could fly, but we saw a lot of places in China by doing that, because we didn't get a stable gig. We started from the central China, then we got contracts in northern China, near Tibet, and there are a lot of beautiful places and different places. And we traveled a lot, man. I know all about Chinese railway and Chinese air companies, and and how to travel with instruments. And sometimes it was miserable, sometimes it was fun, but overall it was a huge experience for us. It was really, really fun, to be honest. But if you ask me, do I want to do that again? No, I don't want to do that again. I'd rather be in Shanghai drinking my tea without coffee. Terrible tea. Yeah, but when you're 25 and you never been to East, it was pretty cool. And then we got the contract. We got the company signed us. The Shanghai-based company signed us with the Grand Hyatt Hotel in Chengdu. It just opened there, and we were the first band. So we were playing there for 7 months, and we didn't get along with whatever general manager who was there, and we kind of quit, or he kicked us out. It depends on who you ask. So and then we got a contract in Shanghai in Shangri-La Hotel, and we were working the Carry Center, the Expo Center. We worked there for a year and a half. It was a good time. And then then the school. That's pretty much it.
Cool. I mean, like, I think a lot of people that had never done music don't understand the mind of a musician, of a person who at one point in their lives said that, I'm going to try to make my money off of art. Like most people are just going to look at you like you're nuts. That's just in my experience.
They do.
That's
they do.
That's what it was.
But, the most interesting question that I've been asked, being a musician in our bar after the set, the guys were like, "Okay, so you're musicians, right?" And we're like, "Yeah. But what do you do for life?" They're like, being a musician, which is playing in front of you, man. It's just 40 minutes. We were playing on this stage. You're sitting here asking. I mean, I don't believe that this could be the only thing you are doing in life. Some of like, hey, but but maybe you're an engineer or something. We're like, no, I'm just playing my guitar and that's how I eat.
Yeah, I think it really does. There is and I think another thing that I think is really cool that people, life after music, because what happens is, like when you put all your chips into that contract, and like, for example, for going back to the contract that we were gonna sign was gonna be, we already did 3. We avoided signing to a small label by I was auto mechanic. So what I would do is I had a small label. My friend had a small label, and it wasn't our friend. It was someone we ended up becoming friends with, had a small label, and they didn't know anything about cars. So I said, "Hey, look, I'll help you out. I know about cars. I'll help you with the logistics of putting together the tour, making sure the car doesn't break down. This giant RV, he got his giant RV that he would we'd pool a giant trailer for all our equipment." And so like what happened was we toured in this thing, and when we were transferring from that small label to a big label, that was going to be like a big contract. Like that contract. Yeah. That contract was going to put us on a US tour and then maybe bounce us into a world tour.
Wow.
And pretty much what people don't get is, even if you do sign that contract, because my uncles were professional musicians, they still are professional musicians, and one of them's really big and signed the big contract with a big label, and the other one did more of their own, kind of like you, did more, make their money off of music, had smaller contracts with smaller companies, but makes their money off of music the whole time. But the guy who went my uncle who went really big, he still had to have this transitionary period, kind of like a professional fighter, that after it was all kind of said and done, it's kind of time to retire, and like, now what, right? Because like, I don't know, like the statistics are, but like when you think about people those rock stars, big bands like Red Hot Chili Peppers and Rolling Stones, those are what, maybe 1%, less than 0.003% of the world population. And then if you look at like how many in the world, how many musicians there are that actually are professional musicians that make money, how many of them actually get to that point? It's like so small, right? It's not the majority.
It is.
The majority of them don't get to that point. Otherwise,
the thing is, there are different layers in musicians, whatever sphere. You can be Rolling Stone, or you can be Eric Clapton, but you also can be a guy who is touring with Eric Clapton, which you might not know. The musicians know him because they are interested in it. Like, have you ever heard of Nathan East, for example?
Yeah, no.
Huh. So Nathan East is the bass player for Eric Clapton, for example, or bass player for Michael Jackson, or the bass player for Prince. He's a big guy. The thing is that he's a musician who is not he's not a face, basically, right? He's a musician. he also makes a lot of money. He has his own projects going on, and there are tons of musicians like that who are like, because most of the musicians that we know, a lot of them, they are the skill, the musical skill itself is not as high as we think. Like the Rolling Stones, right? They can play pentatonic. They are cool. They are the band. They have a show, but they also need some other musicians sometimes, to help them out or to tour with them and stuff like that. So there is a hidden sin of professional musicians behind the great musicians also. And then you can be a musician like, maybe if you are going to a tour, you won't collect a stadium or 4,000 people, but you're gonna have at least 300 or 500 stable listeners in every city you go. That's also a good thing. You are not a superstar, super musician, but you have your own club of appreciators who are following you. So they are different. Then you can be a studio musician, or they're different. There are a lot of different. So basically, you can make money with music, not only if you are world rock star or something like that. That's what I'm trying to say.
And I think that's what a lot of people don't get. And I think, like, when I look at it, I mean, the same can be said about martial arts too. Like, that same thing that happens in music happens in martial arts. I mean, there's plenty of just great coaches, instructors, martial arts instructors that don't necessarily make that $1 million check, but they are producing fighters that move on to become professional fighters that make millions and billions of dollars. They're just not that person, and like that same world exists within martial arts as well, as far as the professional aspect of it.
Of course. And then you always have the market aspect. You always have somebody who you see, and you always have somebody who you don't really see.
Yeah.
But they are there.
Yeah, and I think the stuff that you learn in music can be really transferred into everything else. Like, I mean, like you said, for you, it helped you get the job as a music teacher.
Of course, yeah.
For me, when I left the band and I decided to become an English teacher, I didn't want to study English. I studied psychology. And when I got to Japan, I got all the certificates needed to teach English. But what actually I feel I built my own English school, but I think that what really attracted my clients, my students, I ended up teaching a lot of kids, it wasn't the fact that I was teaching English. It was the fact that I was playing guitar using music to teach English. That's what really attracted everyone, because
that's kind of cool.
Because there was no other English teachers that played guitar. So, like, to this day, I have people ask me, "Hey, can you please come to our school and, like, just, simple shit, like, just come and play ABCs with the kids," and they pay me ridiculous amounts of money to do it. So, like, it's
well, I know, right?
Yeah.
So you are a professional musician until you get paid.
Technically, I say it's an English teaching gig, but I mean, there's a lot of music involved.
Here you go. Everything you learn is necessary.
Well, it's funny though, because, like, again, I saw one of my old engineers, music engineers, when I went back to the U.S. and he's like, I told him what I'm doing now, and he's like, "Yeah, man, you once you're a rock star, you're always a rock star. It doesn't mean that you're in the face." Like you said, it doesn't mean you're out there and you're playing for billions of people, but that never goes away.
Yeah.
So, obviously, and the reason we went on this side tangent about music, and for all you that listen to this for only MMA, sorry, it's not just MMA.
It's live.
It's live. It's live, and that's the whole reason I would like more people to understand that people who do MMA are just like anybody else. We have our lives that we do. How do you balance that, man? Because I know last time we were training, you were asking me that. You're like, I have to like, I have my work, but I still want to get better at my MMA training. And you were asking me that question, but I'm going to turn that question to you, and then I'll answer. I didn't get to give you a full answer that day because we were in between sparring. But how?
Yeah. It would be hard in a full guard position.
Yeah, to have this conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now block my punches. Now, how do you balance training and work? How do you don't get caught in an armbar? How do you balance training and work?
Right. Yeah, man. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard. All I can say is I come back home because I work normal schedule, right? And nowadays, as I have my classroom, I try to practice my music whenever I have time in the school, not at home, because then I'm going straight to the gym, and 10 p.m. I end up at home. So basically I just sleep at home. and beyond that, also I was and I am doing my music, which is kind of like a project thing, and I want to put up a nice project. Also takes time. Well, I don't go to workouts on Saturday and Sunday. That's my music days. I do my music. I produce it. I write it. I sit and compose it. So it's kind of hard to find the balance between all of this. But
and how's this to kind of make it for my listeners who are listening to you right now, and they're like, they got their pens and their paper out. They're like, okay, I want to. How do I do it? Like, just to give an example, what's your schedule look like? How often? How many days a week do you train? How many hours? And then what's your work schedule look like? What are the hours for that look like?
So I train at least 3 times a week, and I try to. Since I got this matchup in boxing, now I'll be doing maybe 4 or 5 because I don't want to get my ass kicked in that match. I'm not a boxer, but anyway. So my schedule, basically, I wake up at 7 or 6. It depends on it's not. I work in 2 campuses, and the schedule is a little bit diverse. So, yeah, most of the time I wake up around 7 o'clock. And I go to school. I finish at 4:30. I get my lunch and dinner, and then I head either home, because sometimes we do have sparring and we train in JX Club, which it's a little bit closer to my place, and most of the times we do have UFL, which is kind of far away, and if I train in UFL, I just head there directly after I had dinner, and 7 to 9 or 10:30, so it will be 2 hours or 2 hours and a half.
Okay, so like a 2 to 3 hour session for training.
Yeah, it's officially 2 hours, but we like to stay and to spar and to talk, and so it gets to 2 hours and a half most of those times.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's 3 or 4 days a week.
Okay.
That's pretty. And sometimes after that, when I get home at 10, I'll go take a shower. I'll eat something, or maybe some fruits or something. I take my guitar and go to a jam session, because I also don't want to lose the skill of stage performance, and I go to it. We do have like live jam sessions here in Shanghai, which are amazing. And any of the listeners would be here, they have to check it out. Some places like Shake Club or House of Blues and Jazz or Chair Club, amazing places. You got a bunch of musicians going there and just playing whatever, you know.
To my listeners, Nick is going to send me the links to that. It'll be in the video description, and it'll also be in the note description on the podcast.
Yeah, I'll gladly share it. So yeah, and then you come back 2 or 3 a.m. and then you have to wake up at 7. But I do that once a week. I jam once a week, maximum twice a week, because you can last forever with this kind of schedule.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about what you want. You know, if you
just to kind of summarize, you work your 9-to-5 job. 9 to 5, yeah. Is that right? 9 to 5. Your work, okay. So you work.
Yeah, it's 8 to 5.
8 to 5. So you work your 8 to 5 job Monday through Friday. 3 days a week, you come in for 2 to 3 hour sessions for training, and then once a week on the weekend, you'll jam out, do some nighttime performances for your music till about 3 a.m. and whatnot.
Most of the times, yeah.
Yeah. So there it is. That is Nick's schedule, and he's trying to get into as an amateur. Like, his goal is to get into amateur MMA, and that's his schedule. Yeah. For those of you listening, trying to figure out like what it looks like, that's what it can look like. And then you asked me the same question: how do I balance it? Like you're like, how do you balance it? And I told you like my training schedule, and you kind of like you made this wide-eyed look when I said I train every day for 3 hours.
Yeah, for 3 hours. Like, it was, man.
What I really wanted to clarify, and I didn't get to mention to you, is I can only do that because I own my own gym. And before I owned my own gym, I created a small space. I had a small garage where I put my heavy bag, a timing bag. I put some, and I've always had this. I've always had a small space wherever I lived, or in my whole life. I'd always set aside a room or a garage where I'd throw in a bench press machine and a squat machine. Not a machine, like a squat rack, a bench rack.
Yeah.
A heavy bag, a timing bag, and I created this routine back then. As time went by, I added hours, but when I was kind of at your level where I was like trying to enter the scene and I wasn't actually competing as much, I was probably doing about an hour or two a day, I would say.
Yeah.
Where I would split in my workouts with a 30-minute bag session, cardio, and then like maybe 30 minutes to an hour of weightlifting afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And as time went by, it didn't really turn into 3 hours until I moved to Japan and I got tricked into doing a pro fight. Like, it wasn't my plan, and I got there. Seriously, like I was signed up as an amateur fight, and I got there and there's cameras. I'm like, oh fuck, this is a pro fight. And the rules were adapted to be amateur, which I think I would have done better with pro rules, but that's a different podcast. But after that,
we'll do that later.
Yeah, after that fight, I felt like if I'm going to get snuck up on and all of a sudden I'll be having a pro fight, like I should train better, and I started doing 3-hour sessions. And my schedule was like, as an English teacher, I work at night. So I don't work, like if I had a daytime schedule, I'd be doing this in the evening. And right. And most of it's done by myself. Like I only train with other people. Just like you, 3 times a week. I train with other people 3 times a week. Well, now I teach, so now I do more than that. But like there was a point where I wasn't teaching, and very similar to you, I was mostly training by myself in that space I told you about. And I would train 5 days a week for about 1 to 2 hours, and then I would train with other people twice a week. Mm-hmm. And that's it turned into what it is now, because I made my space even bigger, and now that I'm teaching, I have more people to train with, and that's why I'm able to get away with like 3, sometimes 4 or 5 hours in a day where I do like in the morning I'll do my routine, which takes 3 hours, which is about 1 hour of bag work, 1 hour of weightlifting, and 1 hour of like shadow boxing, if you will, and like curriculum that I cover. And then at night I will teach, and that'll bring me into another hour and a half. But that's how I ended up like that. It's not like this crazy intense thing where I'm training all at once. Sometimes I'll do an hour or two in the morning, an hour or two in the evening. But that's how that happened. Like it's not. It sounds intense, but it really isn't. It really isn't.
Now I have a picture.
Yeah, to give you more of an idea of how I did that. Like even if in your case you were trying to figure out how can I add a little more to my training, if you can find a space where you can at least hit a bag, maybe you don't have one, but maybe if you can find a place to hit a bag, that's nearby to you to make it so that you can add a few more of those days if that's feasible for you. And even if you don't have a bag, even if you can just get in like some cardio through shadow boxing, then that's another way to get that in there. Like you can squeeze in on the days that you're not training with other people, you can squeeze in a 30-minute 12-round session of shadow boxing where you work all your boxing. If you're getting ready for a boxing match, you pick your combinations that you want to work on maybe footwork for 2 rounds where you do like skip rope, and then your other 10 rounds are going to be, if you're only boxing, you're going to pick one combination per round. Otherwise you'll get bored. So like you pick one combination per round or 2 rounds so that's really solid. So like a jab, your jab, straight hook, or whatever combination you want to work on, and you go through that, and that will really help you ingrain your combinations into your muscle memory. And you can squeeze that in anywhere. Like you can squeeze that in. I don't know if depending on where you live. If you can squeeze it in your house, great. If you're in an apartment and you don't want to bother your neighbors, you can throw a hoodie on and go to the park and do it. That's what I used to do too. But yeah, man, enough of my rant. How I guess we're getting ready for our wrap up here. And my question for you is, what's your advice to anyone interested into getting into MMA?
Well, first of all, don't be afraid. The MMA fighters are the same level, same skilled. They are noobs, they are pros, they are all level fighters over there. And I feel like MMA is one of the best things in martial arts you can learn because it combines so many aspects of all martial arts, right? It has boxing, jiu-jitsu, ground, wrestling, right? You can always find something that you like more or less in MMA and do that. I mean, if you are a great ground fighter, you can do that. If you like submission games, you can be focused on that, but still be focused on your little bit of your punching, a little bit of your kicking, and I think it's just if you want to train at MMA, just do it. Just do it. It's nothing scary. We are all people, and we are all. It's always like it's not like you step in there and you get killed immediately, destroyed by your opponents. No, even during our sparring sessions, we have people who are not even sparring because they're like, I'm just doing that for fun. I don't want to spar. Or even when you're sparring, it is very important to spar with the person you know or person you trust, because a sparring session is a very important part of it. And when sometimes you get sparring partner who is just going nuts on you, and it's okay to bail. It's okay to say, hey man, I don't feel like I want to spar with you, because the most important thing during the whole sparring and workout sessions is not to get injured. That's the most important part. You have to train in the way that you don't get any injuries. Even so, you have to go soft, really, really, really soft, and there is nothing to be afraid of. We are all people. We can talk. We have mouth. Yeah, we always can negotiate. We always can say, hey, I want to spar with you, or don't go so hard. Go like 10% or 20%. Even though sometimes percentage doesn't matter for people. Somebody, you say 20% and they just
their 20% is not your 20%.
Yeah, their 20% is not that, and sometimes their understanding of 20% is not. Yeah, so it's just like, dude, it's all like, it's all negotiable. That's what I want to say, and yeah, find a good spot, find a good spot, find a good coach. Go to one place, go to another place, go to a couple places, see it, work out there, do workout in each of it. See the atmosphere. Atmosphere is what really, really matters, because you're gonna spend there like at least 2 days of your week. So if you don't like, if you like coach but you don't like atmosphere, it also does matter, because you're not going to be a professional fighter. But yeah, of course, if you are a professional fighter, then you don't have to ask me how to do that. I'm not the guy to be asked. So yeah, in the end of the day, you are doing that for yourself, and you have to like it. If you like it there, stay there. If you don't like it, just quit, go to another place. Yeah, I guess. And cover up, keep your hands up. that's the most important things. Don't go crazy, don't kill yourself on trainings. That is also important.
And I know that a lot of my listeners, I have a lot of listeners that are professional coaches, and I also have a lot of listeners that are just starting off. And that's why I think it's really important that you share that thought process, because I mean, I can talk, the professional coaches I interview and the stuff I say, that's all coming from people that have been doing martial arts for over 16, 18 years. So yeah, we have a lot of experience, but I think I hope my listeners, the ones that are interested in getting into MMA that have never done it, I really hope you can listen to Nick's story and realize that Nick is just like you. Nick was just like you. What? How long have you been doing MMA now? 3 years?
No. It's been a year. Only a year.
1 year.
Yeah.
So he's only been doing it for 1 year, right? So he, this is a great thing to think about, because he's exactly where you, if you're kind of on the fence about getting into MMA, he was there less than a year ago.
Right.
So when he says about they're people just like everyone else, it's not just like, I say that all the time, but people are like, yeah, but you've been doing this for 20 years. Like, it's easy. It's easy for you to say that it's no big deal to get punched in the face when you've been getting punched in the face, and you're probably the one doing most of the punching. So
right.
So that's why I wanted you to come out here and let people know, this is an all levels welcome kind of thing. And I hope that's one thing my listeners can get out of this. Well, Nick, thank you so much for taking the time to share your stories, your knowledge, and your insight as a musician and as a martial artist.
Yeah.
Again, are you in a band? Is there a band that I should be mentioning here to people?
No.
Okay. All right. But do keep an eye on the episode descriptions to be able to see Nick perform live at the gigs that he does. I'm gonna have a link to those things in the episode notes on iTunes, and also in the video description on YouTube. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah.
All right. For my listeners, stay tuned for the wrap up. And that's a wrap. Hey, thank you all very much for checking out Social Jello with Angelo. As I mentioned earlier, I'm trying to get 1,000 subscribers on my YouTube. If you're already watching this on YouTube, just hit subscribe. I promise you that I'm not going to bombard you with junk content. I only release 2 podcasts, sometimes 3, a month. And as far as YouTube videos, I probably only release one, like with the podcast, maybe like 4 to 5 videos a month. So you're not going to get bombarded by notifications by my work. But I am trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. That's all I really want. Not so much for the financial stuff, but to be able to push more content. Once I hit 1,000 subscribers, it allows me to start posting messages up on YouTube. It allows me to do live videos from my phone, which I'm not allowed to do right now because of YouTube's policy. So if you can do that, that would be just awesome. That's all I gotta say. Alright, well, hey, I'll catch y'all later. Cheesy line, train your mind, body, and spirit every day. Peace.